Right, and we're back. How's everyone doing? Thanks for sticking with us. So we're winding down, but we're getting better as we go through our schedule today. Now getting ready to go into our cybersecurity and e-commerce segment. And might I say, congratulations and thank you to the participants because I'm looking at this number and it's going up. Usually we go down um, as we progress during the day. So thank you so much for sticking with us all day in celebrating SBDC Day and learning about the services and resources that the SBDC can offer you and your business. Okay, so before we get into today's segments, I'm going to give the opportunity to our director, Dr. Tenda Indora, to again um, introduce you to our into the segment and tell you a little bit more about the center. Dr. Indora?
Okay, thank you very much, Priscilla. And I just want to say welcome, everybody. And it's a great, great opportunity and a pleasure to have you join us for SBDC Day, which is actually a national celebration of small businesses and the work that the um, Small Business Development Center, which is a national program, does. I also am so delighted about our ask the experts because today we have an opportunity to meet um, our center consultants who are experts in all their different fields. And one of the things that I always hear small businesses thinking and saying is, what do I need cybersecurity for? Or even before COVID, nobody was thinking too much about e-commerce and pivoting their business to sell online as the main driver of their business model. And today we have Michelle and Nalit, who are experts at cybersecurity. And because we are also online, we have Ahmet, who's our expert on e-commerce and their platforms and how you can get on it and how you can get started, because this is important to small businesses. And I can't emphasize enough that when you're operating and running your business in virtual spaces and on a digitally, you need to have the protections that you need, whether it's on your desktop, whether it's on your mobile. And sometimes as small businesses, we think cybersecurity is this big thing that you have to focus on. So I am so proud and so delighted to have our three experts here join us, and you can ask them any questions you want. And they're doing it in their everyday lives. They're also business owners, and they do deliver information that is practical, that is realistic, because that is based on experience, because they're doing it every day. So welcome, everybody.
You're muted, Priscilla.
Thank you. Okay, so before we get into the segment, I just want like to remind everyone this is a live Q&A session. So please feel free to ask your questions. This is what today is all about, and you can do this in a number of ways. We have the Q&A feature here in Zoom. You can ask a question there. You can also use the chat box, although sometimes it gets a little bit cumbersome with a lot of questions. If you find that we skipped your questions, head over to the Q&A. You can also raise your hand, especially if you have a lot of follow-ups on your questions, and it's easier for you to voice your questions via audio. Raise your hand and we'll enable audio for you. And if you are watching this via our Facebook live stream, you can also pop your question in the comment. We'll ask the question for you. So please keep those questions coming. So as Dr. Ndora says, we have three experts here. We have Ahmet Agdag. He is the owner of Strymont Consulting, and an e-commerce consulting company. We also have Nilit Patel of All Solutions Inc. Deals with technology and security, cybersecurity company, as well as Michelle Schaap from Michelle. Now we fight. I can't pronounce your business name, but I'm glad you have it in the background there, so I don't have to pronounce it today. But I say CSG, which is a law firm here in West Orange, New Jersey. And so I'll give the experts an opportunity to introduce themselves. Tell you a little bit about themselves and about their expertise and what they do here at the SBDC. So let's start off with Michelle.
Priscilla, thank you so much, and thank you to the SBDC. I'm delighted to be here with you all this afternoon. The firm's name is pronounced Chiesa, Shahinian, and Giantomasi. CSG is much easier. I eat, sleep, and breathe cybersecurity, data protection, and privacy, and I like to refer to myself as the queen of paranoia. And as Priscilla said, for small businesses, oftentimes I hear, I'm too small, I'm not a target, it's not in the budget. But here's the problem. Being out of business next year because of a hack is not in the budget either. So the three of us are here with you, and the SBDC is here for you today to give you resources, to give you information that is in fact cost effective for small businesses to understand what you need to do, not only by law, but to protect your business, to protect your crown jewels, to protect your customers. And particularly if you're going to e-commerce, again, understanding what you need to do. You can't simply cut and paste the privacy policy from Amazon.com and say, okay, I'm good to go. Aside from the fact that that's plagiarism, I suspect that most small businesses do not have the cybersecurity resources that an Amazon.com has. So we are here to answer your questions, to educate you on what are best practices, what are your legal requirements, what type of cyber insurance you should be thinking about, should you be thinking about cyber insurance, and other things that go bump in the night that you can't see.
All right, great. Nalit?
I'm going to start and ask a simple question. We have this big words, cybersecurity. I'm going to break it down into small, understandable words and meanings. How many people get emails today that they don't recognize who it is from and be tempted to click, and all the bad magic voodoo starts happening when you do that? How many people see offers which are very tempting and very encouraging? Click here to get something for free, or this is when you start getting all the bad things in your environment, whether it is your PC, your cell phone, your iPhone, a MacBook, whatever the case may be. We are over here to guide you and educate you through the shark infested waters and share what are the do's and don'ts and how to protect yourself and how to maintain clean hygiene and just cover yourselves and your businesses that allow you to protect and generate the income. So feel free to ask any and all questions. Okay?
All right.
Somebody, Martina raised an excellent question. You do virtual sewing and cooking classes for kids. First and foremost, any personally identifiable information for the kids that you have, you should have a consent from their parents so you are protected. Okay? Number two, you should, if you're recording any of this and putting it in social media, you should have disclaimers and all the regulatory okays from the parents and their advisors that you can record and you want to use their names and pictures and put it wherever you want to put it. Number three, you want to check what kind of browsers you're using, what kind of security parameters you have, that protects you from malware, antivirus, and all of those good things, just to begin with.
Well, and I
Michelle,
will
you can jump in.
Okay.
I,
So
I will add.
I'm so sorry. Let's introduce Ahmet, and then we'll get into the questions. Ahmet.
Thank you, Priscilla. Glad to be here. As Dr. Ndora mentioned, e-commerce has definitely become a field that many businesses are starting to transition to, or pivot their businesses to, or even start a business in e-commerce, because it's not just the effect of the pandemic, which did accelerate the process, but it has been a ongoing process as the e-commerce field has continued to evolve, and it's been a field that I've been involved in for many years. It's almost been 6 years, and every year there's something new. And where the SBDC comes in for everybody is not just helping you understand how to get into e-commerce, but also having us here to help you understand the changes. Because when it comes to these fields that are technology and digital, things continually evolve. You can't just settle down on one idea or one concept or one way of doing things. You always have to keep updated, keep track of the changes and constantly evolve with them to make sure you're staying ahead. And I will say that there is a very, very strong connection between e-commerce and cybersecurity, because many people who have, in my personal experience too with clients, have forgotten to really prioritize cybersecurity, only to find their e-commerce operations affected, because you rely on your computer access and internet access. And it's not just viruses, it's of poor security measures can get your accounts hacked, can get your money stolen. Thousands of dollars. I've seen thousands of dollars stolen from clients who just didn't have proper security measures in place. So there's an entire field there. But if you are going to be doing e-commerce, cybersecurity should be a priority for you as well. So that's what we're here for.
Okay, wonderful. I just wanted to add that when it comes to the e-commerce portion here, just wanted to let you know that Ahmet does a number of workshops for those that are on the call. I'm not sure if I see a lot of cybersecurity questions, and I want to make sure that our e-commerce questions are also bring to the forefront here. So we have a number of questions for those that want to get into e-commerce or you want to transition your operations. Of course, now due to COVID, everyone is online. How to get into, how to set up your website online, build an online store, the marketplaces that are available to you, how to get into Amazon, how to get into B2B, B2C. So if you have any questions regarding that, please put that in the chat box and we'll get to it as quickly as we can. So we're going to start off with our questions right here. I have one here that says, if I have no budget for any technology, what can I do to protect my company from cyber risk? I think this can go to Michelle or Nilit.
I would say that the most cost-effective way to protect your business on a limited budget is to educate your personnel. And I will tell you that the SBDC has for free resources and recorded webinars. I know certainly from myself, I suspect from Navneet as well, that provide to you tips and education. And I would encourage you to have your personnel watch those webinars with you and advise your personnel to pick up the phone and verify. It goes back to what Nalit was saying about unexpected emails, unexpected attachments, and what have you. Those are the largest source of compromise for small business owners, are those links and those emails that in fact are masquerading as legitimate correspondence when in fact it's a virus waiting to happen. So if you cannot afford anything else, education for your personnel, training is critical. I will also tell you that there are free resources for small business owners, and I'm going to put some into the chat, and I'll let Nalit take over because I'm sure he's got plenty of ideas also.
Thank you, Michelle. That's a great segue to begin with. Um, if you don't have the resources, if you don't have the budget, my first question I would ask is, are you using any technology to sustain your business? If you are, you should carve something in. Under the CARES Act, there is monies available to protect your business. This information can also be available and is at SBDC. You can talk with any of the consultants, and they can help you and guide you in getting funds from there to protect your business. There's a question that came up, and the question is, if you're using uh, Google Pay, PayPal, any of this to accept funds, uh, this is a loaded question and it can be answered in multiple ways. I'm going to start from your banking relationship. Wherever you have your banking relationship, you should have two separate accounts. One account in which you have this funds come in. Second, your relationship also, with your banker should also provide you a two-factor authentication. So you can always protect your personal information and your business information. So even if there is a breach, nobody can hack and get into it through tokenizing and two-part authentication, whatever is provided. Whatever services you are providing, majority of the stuff, you will be receiving this money and notification either via a text alert or via an email. So you should have your own domain name and own secured emails. Not use Google, not use Hotmail, not use Yahoo. Michelle can give you some insights about what is still happening where businesses are not going to professional email and what happens when they are recycling their old credentials. Michelle, take it over.
Just before Michelle start, Nalit, we did get a comment here about the volume. Okay, and
I,
so if you can kind of adjust your volume, it's a little bit low.
I adjusted
Okay.
it. I'm at 40.
Okay. All right. Well, and as well, we're going to try to field the questions because there's a number of questions coming from different areas. So we'll ask the questions, and of course, our expert will then answer. Okay. So Michelle, you can pick up from there. I apologize for that.
No, no worries at all. And what Nali was alluding to was the practice of using the same password for multiple accounts or for recycling passwords. And I cannot tell you, and I mentioned this actually, we were doing a training session for the SBDC consultants and sharing with them how many people still are using credentials that they used for Yahoo accounts back in 2013 when Yahoo's mega breach occurred. And the fact is that those credentials are out there now on the dark web. And once they're out there, people on the dark web assume that people sadly are lazy, meaning that you will in fact use the same password over and over again, or that you'll use your kid's soccer team or birth date or any other thing that's already out there on the internet for people to find with a simple search. And think about this when you're setting up your security questions, because oftentimes you're also asked to set up security questions. Well, if the security question is, what elementary school did you go to? And I can find that online on your Facebook page or your LinkedIn page, then how good a security question is that? What I always tell people when they're thinking about those types of questions and information is lie. I went to Ishkabibble High School in Wisconsin. And by the way, no, I didn't. I grew up in Livingston, New Jersey, and I went to Livingston High School. But guess what? That's not my security question because I know it's out there. I know it's available online. I know it's available online that my daughter and son both played lacrosse in high school. So I don't put their teams out there as my password. Be very mindful of using robust passwords, at least 10 digits, if not more. And if you can't remember your passwords, think about using a password resource. And as I mentioned the other day, I'm solution agnostic, so I won't tell you you should absolutely use Dashlane or LastPass or what have you. But think about using a resource like that if you're not sure that you could remember a whole bunch of passwords. And please do not store passwords on your computer in a file called password. In addition to passwords, multi-factor authentication is critical for your business accounts, for your banking accounts, and any other accounts that are going to be touching your data and personal customer information.
Well, I guess that segues into the question, what is 2FA or MFA? And I don't know what those are the abbreviation for. So, Michelle.
2FA or MFA is two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication. So when I log into my work computer every morning, I have to put in my name, I have to put in my password, and then I have to either put in a code, depending on what tool I use, or I get a code sent to my phone that I have to accept. So it's what you have and what you know. And those are the ideas, is that you've got two different, or in this case, three different means to log in and identify yourself. So for example, Duo is one of the resources that it's out there for multi-factor authentication. Sometimes you'll see people on their key rings, they have an RSA fob that will generate a new number every 60 seconds. And these resources will set you up with this multi-factor authentication. You can do it with online banking, where when you log into your online banking account, they will then text you a code to your cell phone that you have to enter before you can proceed. Having that multi-factor authentication, that two-factor authentication, will better secure all of your accounts. And by the way, you can do that for your Gmail account and what have you. If you're not sure how, for example, when you're in your Gmail account, enter into the help bar two-factor authentication, and it will talk you through how to set that up.
That's wonderful. And I think our clients and our participants here should also know to integrate that for your social media. A lot of people, I know we covered marketing earlier today, but a lot of our social media accounts are being hacked and taken over, and setting up that authentication that Michelle is talking about is extremely important, just to make sure someone doesn't hijack your platforms and your pages. Nalit, did you want to add anything to that?
Yes, let's do a little exercise. If the participants have a scratch piece of paper, if you can take it and tear it into two pieces, okay? And keep one piece to yourself and throw away the other piece. What two factor authentication means is, unless you can match both sides, okay, and make that paper look as a complete paper, you will not get access to your credentials, whatever it might be, whether it is your bank account, whether it is your email, whether it is your application, whatever it might be. So don't leave your lock and keys at one place, always separate them. What we are saying is, if you're doing a multi-factor authentication, don't ask them to send an email, ask them to send you a token on your cell phone. In an event your email is compromised, nobody can take that token and build or re-access your email. It could be your Facebook account, any social media, it could be your bank, anything, but this is how you protect it. Okay?
Wonderful. All right. We have another question here. If I have data breach, what is the first thing I should do?
Let me go first. Call your lawyer, call your insurance company, shut down everything, immediately reach out to, depending upon the breach, there are resources within the state of New Jersey. You can also avail on resources for Michelle and myself, and we can guide you what are the next steps to be taken and what are the immediate steps to be taken. But call your insurance company, call your attorney first thing.
And understand that if something has happened, it may or may not be a breach. It may be an incident. And the distinction is from a legal obligation as much as it is an operational obligation. So 50 different states have 50 different breach notification laws, which is enough to make anybody's head spin, let alone an attorney's head spin. And if you have customers from New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, fill in the blank, and the personally identifiable information that you have about those customers, meaning name and social security number, name and credit card information, name and account and password information. There's different categories depending on the statute. There is a reporting obligation to law enforcement. In New Jersey, you would report to NJ-KIC. And in fact, I put the information about NJ-KIC into the chat. In New York State, the reporting obligation is to 3 or 4 different state agencies, depending upon the size of the breach. But again, it assumes that the breach involves personally identifiable information and that information was not encrypted. And the encryption of personally identifiable information is your get out of jail for free card in terms of whether something is a reportable breach or if it is merely an incident. The other thing that you need to keep in mind is that if you have business information about your customers, even if it's not personally identifiable information, contractually, you may have a reporting obligation to your customers. If you've signed a non-disclosure agreement with your customers, you may have an obligation to let those customers know that their business information has been compromised. But again, if your systems are encrypted, if the data is encrypted, then it may not be a breach. It may merely be an incident.
Okay, great. Um, Someone asked, should I accept the offer from my insurance company to do their free risk assessment?
That's an interesting question. And I will be sounding like a lawyer when I say it depends. The advantage of having your insurance carrier do this for you is it's free. The downside is now your insurance carrier is in your shorts and they know what you have done. And by the way, what you haven't done. And the problem is that once you get a risk assessment, the risk assessment is going to identify for you high risk, medium risk, and low risk. And the insurance company is going to expect you to then implement measures to remediate or mitigate those risks. And if you ignore that report, if you don't do anything about that report, and then there is a breach, you may have given your carrier a reason to deny your claim. So it's a terrific resource to have. It's a service that a lot of insurance carriers are offering. I would think twice before I accept it and instead look for other resources and other ways to do a risk assessment before I allowed the insurance carrier to be the basis for it.
Another question that just came in was, what are your thoughts about DocuSign?
So let's take a classic example. During the CARES Act, there are people that are offering loan services, and in order for you to get the loan, you have to sign the documents. If you know the origination, if you know that the email is coming from a legitimate place, and if you read it through and accept the terms and conditions, then it is okay to do DocuSign. Even in DocuSign, there is spam and malware that is going on. People will send you stuff you don't know. It could be, oh, this is your Dropbox thing. This is your document. Anytime you may go and discuss something in social media, you're looking for a mortgage consultant. You're looking for this. Try to stay away from a lot of that stuff. Okay.
The other thing to keep in mind, and this goes back to what Nalit started off our discussion with, is some of the scams that are out there are spoofed emails with supposed documents for you to sign. So if you receive an email that says, please click on this link and sign these documents for your PPP loan, or click on this link and sign in to get your COVID vaccine, or fill in the blank, what have you, please make sure that the link that you've received, the documents you received are legitimate. And in fact, I shared with Nalit and SBDC yesterday, I received an email from one of my clients that said, please see these bid documents and then call me. Well, I hadn't spoken to this client in 2 months. And before I clicked on the bid documents, I picked up the phone and called the known phone number for my client and said, "Did you send me documents?" And he said, "No, thank you for letting me know." And I pointed out to him that it was evident to me somebody had actually already compromised his system and was redirecting his emails. So this was not a spoofed email account. It was actually his email that had been intercepted and misdirected. So be very, very careful when you're receiving documents that you don't expect, whether it's DocuSign or otherwise.
Okay, we have another question here. And I guess this will probably segue to Ahmet soon. I own an e-commerce website. I don't keep credit card information on my computer. Everything is processed via authorized.net or other payment gateways. Is cyber breaches still a major concern for me?
Yeah, so on the e-commerce end, whenever you have a website built, generally speaking, all the operations are being handled by some kind of plugin or third-party application. The website, whether it's the host or something like Stripe, they are giving you their utility to use to take payment transactions and all the information. But the risk comes from the fact that you have admin access to your website and you have admin access to those utilities, and there is data there that will be recorded on your back end, on the admin panel end, that would be valuable to hackers. It depends exactly on what type of information you're receiving from your customers, based on your website settings. Some people just have names and email addresses, but there's a lot of other information there that would rely on you checking your plugins individually to see what kind of information they're recording. And if your e-commerce website, if they breach it and they access your admin access, essentially, they will have access to all that information, including your information. So not just the information of your customers, your information will be there as well. And this can include the charge methods, the deposit methods, any other business related information. So it is something you do want to be considering, because even if you're personally not, you're an application is taking the payments, and you've set it up that way, and you're not recording that credit card information yourself, you do still have that admin access, and that admin access will if it's breached, will allow them to obtain all kinds of information that's being recorded that you probably haven't thought of checking the settings. And if you haven't put in any additional security features, especially like multi-factor, it's just a risk that you want to avoid.
I would also add to that that even though Authorized Net or PayPal or what have you, if you look at their website and your agreements with them, they will say that they are indeed PCI compliant, that is, payment card industry compliant with their security requirements. However, if you read the fine print of the terms, it will also say, we assume no liability. And it's your obligation as a business owner to vet your vendors and ask them questions. How are you securing the data that you collect? How are you making sure that third parties are not getting access to my customer's credit card information or any other information that's stored by an authorized.net or PayPal or what have you? Kick those tires. It's not a guarantee that they're not going to be compromised because there is no such thing. But at least you can then say with a straight face that you vetted your vendors, you asked them to confirm and demonstrate to you that they are PCI compliant, and make sure that on the privacy policy on your website that it states that you are using a third party provider to process these payments, and invite your customers to go to those provider sites to see what they do.
Let me add something else to it. If you are providing a service to your customer, even though you're using third-party providers, if there is a breach, you are liable for $10,000 per violation on your side. You will have to then go and mitigate the risk with the third-party provider and figure out where the breach took place. So be careful when you check all this regulations and how you accepting money.
Okay. So we have another question here. I think this is for Ahmed. Ahmed, what are some e-commerce platforms that I can use for my e-commerce website? Which ones are easier to use and which ones are more secure?
So when it comes down to which one you should use, there's a lot of factors that depend in there. Because one thing to consider is um, how are you building the website? Because when there's certain services out there like Shopify, for example, which is a popular example, Shopify lets you build a website and they host your website. So you are using Shopify's platform to build your e-commerce website. And to clarify, an e-commerce website essentially means any website that has e-commerce features available, which are usually, payment processing, a shopping cart, a product catalog, and a checkout. So there are services like WooCommerce, where if your website is built on a WordPress, WooCommerce will integrate as a plugin to your WordPress and turn your website into an e-commerce site because you had an existing WordPress. Whereas if you went with Shopify, you would build a website on Shopify's platform, and Shopify by default has everything for e-commerce because that's what they offer as a product. So they give you these options. Easiest is usually something like Shopify, where they give you the platform, they give you all the features for e-commerce. Their plugins are usually vetted, so it's something that Shopify themselves checks. But by vetted, I mean they just check to make sure that the plugin is compatible with their platform. When it comes to WordPress, it can be a bit more technical because you're still responsible for the WordPress infrastructure. Stuff like WooCommerce and there's other sites like BigCommerce. They will only add in the e-commerce features, but the website infrastructure itself is still WordPress, and you're still responsible for maintaining that infrastructure. And it's just a bit more technical. It's flexible but technical. So Shopify is usually the easier one. When it comes to security, as it's mentioned, you want to check those vendors, and you're still technically responsible on your end to make sure your security is up to date. If you're using Shopify, they'll give a bit more service in regards to helping secure because you're using their platform. When it comes to WordPress, WordPress will offer assistance too, but the problem is if you're integrating a lot of different plugins, then it starts becoming more and more something that you have to start checking out. You need to make sure all those plugins, you got to make sure they're updated. You got to make sure there's no vulnerabilities. There's just a lot more effort on your end that you will need to put in to make sure everything is secured. But at the end of the day, just best practice wise, while you might pick an easier platform to work with and they might be a bit more secure, you'll still want to make sure you're double or triple checking your security on your site and making sure all your plugins are secure. You want to make sure that your everything is up to date and that you check in with the resources that that infrastructure provides, whether it's WordPress or Shopify. Or I see another question here in the chat, so I'll just link that in here. Sites like Weebly and Wix, they they offer certain plugins to convert sites to e-commerce too. I don't know if they've recently adopted WooCommerce in, because I know Wix, for example, does offer its own features for building a e-commerce website where they let you bring in the plugins for the putting a product catalog in, and then putting the payment transactions in and putting the checkout in. So those what you see is what you get. Website builders like Weebly and Wix, technically they offer their own e-commerce suites, which are essentially those plugins you need to change your website into e-commerce. So WooCommerce is specifically is a WordPress integrated plugin by itself. All of them, like I said, though it makes the site easier or hard is the platform you use. What you see is what you get. Website editing like Weebly, Wix, and Shopify are a little easier on you. WordPress is close to that, but there's a bit more of the technical stuff involved too if you want to make a lot more edits. So that's something to consider. But for all these websites, you are responsible for making sure the security is there and making sure that there's no vulnerabilities and taking that due diligence to avoid those situations.
Great.
And if I may, understand that you're not going to be able to prevent everything. And a Shopify is not going to be able to prevent everything. One of my clients, I had actually looked at their website. They asked me to work with them on it. And it said on the privacy policy, all capital letters, "We guarantee your security." And I said to them, "Guys, that's an FTC violation." They said, "What do you mean?" I said, "It's really simple. You can't guarantee the security. That is a deceptive trade practice because you cannot guarantee it. And what you need to understand is you need to ask these questions of the potential vendor. Ask Shopify, ask any of the commerce platforms that you're thinking about engaging with. What are your privacy practices? How are you going to secure my customers' information? And when they give you the answers, keep a record of the fact that you asked the question, that you got the information back, and that you made an educated and responsible decision. And make sure that your website's privacy policy doesn't say, "I guarantee it," because you can't. What you can say with a straight face is, "I'm engaging with vendors who are taking reasonable measures to protect your information." And then ask those same questions on your annual renewals. It's not just one and done. You have to ask the question each year and keep a record that you've asked that question and you've gotten a satisfactory answer. And also look online. Were they the next Yahoo data breach? Were they the ones that had this massive breach? And if so, maybe it's time to switch platforms. Things will happen, but that doesn't mean that you should put your head in the sand or that it's inevitable. You need to be responsible when you're dancing with your vendors and sharing your customers' data. But so long as you act responsibly and you're transparent with your customers, when the proverbial hits the fan, it's the difference between having reporting obligation and having legal liability.
Thank you, Michelle.
Let
Thank you
me
very much.
let me add something else to it. Whenever you're doing this, you should always look at transferring the risk from you to the other player, which means if you're putting this with Shopify or other people, you should ask what their insurances carry and how you are protected so your customers are protected. So you transfer the risk from you, from yourself, your company to the larger entity, which is an important part also.
Thank you, Nelit. Following up to Martina's question about Weebly compatible with WooCommerce, just so you're clear, WooCommerce is independent. It's an independent software. So is Weebly. Um, and so is Weebly. So they don't integrate together. Weebly is hosted, but WooCommerce is self-hosted. So when I say self-hosted, it means you're gonna have to get your own web hosting platform. You're gonna have to install WordPress, then install WooCommerce and operate it yourself. You are responsible for the whole system. You know, if anything breaks or goes down, you'll probably have to find a WordPress developer to help you. The good thing about that is there's millions of WordPress developers, whereas Weebly, Wix, Shopify, those are self-hosted. You're paying monthly. So with WooCommerce, you're not paying anything monthly for the service, but with Weebly and Wix and Shopify, you're paying a monthly fee. So they're maintaining that software. And so there's a whole lot of things that come with that. So I hope that helps you. I have another question here. Um, let's see, there's two of them. I think this one is not Nil, Ahmed. What is the difference between B2C and B2B in e-commerce? And for those who may not know, B2C is business to consumer and B2B is business to business. Ahmed.
Yeah, so when it comes to B2C and B2B, the biggest distinction is essentially in B2C, you are selling products to individual customers who are going to, you're selling the product to a customer. It's, maybe individual basis, maybe they're purchasing in bulk. In the e-commerce realm, where I would extend that out to is, if you're using a site like Amazon, you are technically doing B2C unless you hop into their B2B section of their platform, because what happens is you become a third-party seller on Amazon, and then you are listing your products on Amazon's marketplace, and then you are selling it to individual customers who are coming and shopping on Amazon. And if we use the Amazon example to figure out what B2B means, it's there's something called Amazon Vendor Central, and because B2B is business to business, what happens is you are doing e-commerce not with the individual customers, but with the online retailer. And if we are using Amazon as an example, you know, it'll be easier if I mention, if you ever see anything that's Amazon Basic as a brand, for example, those are B2B because a supplier is selling products to Amazon, and then Amazon is putting their label on it and then selling it as Amazon Basic. Other examples of B2B are where you're doing business with Home Depot for e-commerce. Their catalog, online catalog, is not third-party market sellers. They are all suppliers who are essentially doing business with Home Depot. They have a contract with Home Depot to supply them with products. And then Home Depot sells these products to customers, and then the supplier drop ships them on behalf of Home Depot. If you are doing B2C, you are selling the product to the customer and then shipping it to them, and the customer is the one doing the purchase, while whoever is in the middle, if you're not using your own website, whoever's in the middle with like Amazon or eBay, they're just the marketplace. So the biggest difference between B2C and B2B is who you are doing business with in e-commerce. In B2C, you are selling the product to the customers or the service to those customers. If you're doing B2B, you are supplying an online retailer who is then selling it to their own customers, and then you are just the supplier offering that service or those products to them.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you, Ahmed. Okay, so now that it's about 2:49, and I know there's some questions. What we'll do now is just kind of close out your thoughts and in regards to the expertise that you provide here at the SBDC. Ahmed, let's go with you, and then we'll go Nalit and Michelle. Last words, and then we'll transition to the next segment.
Yeah, so as Priscilla mentioned early on, I provide the e-commerce counseling here, and I do have e-commerce related webinars. They essentially cover everything from understanding the e-commerce ecosystem, from self-hosting to using a marketplace to becoming a supplier for online retailers in e-commerce. They cover improving your capabilities in e-commerce, which will help you scale up your business. And also, when you're building your strategic plan, you can understand the different areas of approach you have to growing your business, because depending on the type of platform model you're using, there are different ways to grow your business in e-commerce. And then the third one covers building your marketing content, which is introducing your product in an e-commerce environment, because shopping on e-commerce is different from shopping traditionally. So it covers the topics of how to present your products, the information you need. There are certain requirements to do e-commerce business now, which are things like getting your trademark, getting your UPC barcodes. These are now requirements to do business on e-commerce on many marketplaces, and as a supplier. So these are the topics that's covered. So if you are trying to get into anything about starting in e-commerce, pivoting to e-commerce, you're doing e-commerce, but you're trying to grow your business and you're not sure what's blocking you or what you need to do to accelerate that momentum, that's what I would be here to help you out with and help your e-commerce business grow or enter into e-commerce.
Wonderful. All right, we have about 2 minutes left. Michelle and Nalit, can you guys last thoughts?
I will put it quickly.
Mhm.
So we provide technology services to small, medium, and large customers, starting from procurement to installation to training. Most important, training your staff and what tools and resources you need to use to protect yourself and your company from cybersecurity. Reach out, we'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Michelle, any last words?
Yes, again, I provide training through SBDC. I can, again, through the SBDC, provide you counseling as to how you can prepare written policies and procedures, how you can prepare privacy policies, how you can develop a cybersecurity program for your company, including an incident response plan. And I know that we didn't touch on planning today, but the day to figure out how to respond to a data breach is not the day that the breach occurs. And in terms of best practices, I will share with you number one, use robust passwords and change those passwords at least every 60 days. If they're not at least 10 digits long, the longer the password or passphrase, the less frequently you have to change them. Implement multi-factor authentication. Patch your systems. If you get notification that an upgrade or an update is available, don't hit remind me later. Be prepared, understand where your data is, and understand what third-party vendors are doing with your data. And take advantage of the free resources, please, that I put into the chat that you can then look to develop better practices for your business and to train your personnel.
Wonderful. So I'd like to say thank you to our consultants here, Michelle, Nalit, and Ahmed, for taking the time out to participate in our Q&A today. As they all just mentioned, they do provide these services. They are at no cost to you here at the SBDC. I saw in the chat, someone asked about connecting with with Ahmet in regards to e-commerce, that simply can be done. Our webpage is right here, www.rnsbbc.com. Simply visit it and fill out that request for counseling that's in the top right hand corner. They are willing to sit with you and do an assessment and give you recommendations on whether it is setting up your e-commerce website if you're new to e-commerce, if you're in business and you are concerned about breaches, you have employees, you want to make sure that you're compliant, reach out to us and we'll set up those appointments for you to have those consultations. Takoa is providing you the link to make it very easy for you to do that. As well as I mentioned before, click on the training link on our website, and these webinars are provided. Michelle does a cybersecurity webinar. Nalit does a ransomware, how to respond to ransomware, and Ahmed does a host of e-commerce webinars for beginners, right up to those that are in, fulfillment by Amazon, or you need some help with, tweaking your website and increasing sales to your website. So again, thank you to the participants. We will get ready now to transition to our last segment for today. Is that right, Takoa? Right? Credit.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm blanking out here. Credit, finance, and
Capital and
capital.
finance. Yeah.
Right. And so that will begin at 3 o'clock. Thank you for sticking with us, and we hope to see you in the next final segment. All right.
Take care,
And
everybody.
thanks, Michelle.
Looking to grow your existing business? The New Jersey SBDC network can help. Our no-cost growth acceleration services provide in-depth consulting to assess your financials, optimize your performance, uncover new opportunities, and accelerate business growth. Ready to grow? Visit us online to get started on your path to success today.
I'm the business owner of Village Babies Development Center in South Orange, New Jersey.
Thinking about turning your dream into a reality? The New Jersey SBDC network can help. We provide startup and planning training services,
Tools and resources to help evaluate your business idea, help you make sound business decisions, and pursue your dream of business ownership. It's important to note that we do not provide grants or loans. However, we provide information and technical assistance on how to access capital. Sound like you're in the right place? Great. The next step is to visit us online to get started on your path to success today.
Hello, my name is Dana Kearney, and I'm the business owner of Village Babies Development Center in South Orange, New Jersey. Village Babies Development Center is an early childhood education center that serves children ages 6 months up to 5 years of age. I started Village Babies Development Center back in April of 2004. And I was a registered nurse at that time. And when I had my son, I decided I would stay home with him because I had a hard time finding a child care center that I felt comfortable with. And I ended up watching or babysitting several of my neighbors' children. And from there, it turned into a business. And I've been so thankful to have been able to connect with the New Jersey SBDC because while I understood the anatomy and physiology of children and early childhood development and also learned about early childhood curriculum, I did not have a business acumen. And so I was referred to the SBDC. And from there, I had taken a course. It was Dr. Endoro who I had known during that time and introduced me to the business course Intro to Business. And from there, I continued to connect with the SBDC throughout and have obtained a wealth of knowledge to help me sustain my business. And here I am 16 years later. And I have just been so grateful for the amount of business knowledge that I have obtained and relationships through the SBDC. So I truly want to just commend the SBDC for all of their hard work and mentorship for small businesses like myself. And I want to wish the SBDC a happy SBDC Day. Dana Kearney. Thank you.
I've worked with the SBDC here in Newark as well as one in New Brunswick, and the experience has been phenomenal. If you're a startup, a small business owner, an established business, all of us have gaps in our business where we can use some help, and this is an organization that provides those types of resources. Some are free. All of them are either free or at a nominal cost, and it's worth both the investment of time and money. So at a minimum, check out what the SBDC has to offer. It's everything from lunches to workshops on every conceivable business topic that a small business owner will have to deal with.
Hi, my name is Jules Singletary. I graduated Rutgers University in 2005 from Livingston College. And when I finished that degree, I went on to complete a one-year business degree from the Fashion Institute of Technology. And that started my 12-year career in corporate America. So I'm super grateful I had the opportunity to work for some major companies like JCPenney's as a business planner and financial analyst. And my last corporate gig was in 2017. I was working at Nike's sales office in Chicago, and I was laid off after 4 years. They had a major global reorganization, but I knew in my spirit that that was time for me to start my own business. So I moved to Newark, super close to Rutgers and the SBDC. And that's where I took up roots and started my business there. So I'm now the proud owner of Gratitude Griot LLC. We are a well-being-based business that specializes in teaching people how to alleviate their stress using yoga, meditation, and therapeutic art. Some of the resources that I got from the SBDC, like from the beginning, is one thing knowing how to navigate corporate America spreadsheets, doing business planning from that angle, but being able to translate that knowledge to my own entrepreneurial journey, but I knew nothing. So the SBDC has been an amazing resource, from learning how to register my business in the state of New Jersey. They helped me to register as a minority-owned, women-owned business so that I could get certain set-asides for the state and get contracting opportunities. I learned how to build an entire marketing plan and sales strategy, and got teamed up with some amazing coaches, from financial coaches to business coaches. And all of it wasn't just textbook knowledge. Like, I've been able to take this information and really run with it. As a result, from all of the foundational elements that the SBDC helped to put in place for my business, I've been awarded grants to keep my business running throughout the pandemic. I have gotten amazing contacts and networking opportunities that continue to expand our reach. And I am beyond grateful for the resources that the SBDC offers for free. So many free resources. And then there are a lot of low-cost resources that I've been able to take advantage of that have been within my budget. When anyone asks me, how do I do XYZ in business? I'm like, you need to go to your SBDC office, find them online. They are now offering all types of virtual workshops and webinars that are amazing. They have so many resources online on their websites, and there's so many offices around the country. Like, please find one near you. They are super amazing, fantastic resources. I cannot say enough how much the SBDC has helped me and my business, Gratitude Griot. And I continue to use them as a resource to this day. So happy SBDC Day. Congratulations, I guess. I don't even know what you say on a day like this, but good luck to you and continued success and helping so many more entrepreneurs, business owners. Thank you.